Welcome to the Friday Habit with Benjamin Manley and Mark Labriola II.
The Friday Habit is for creators, entrepreneurs, and agency owners looking for actionable ideas on how to grow their business and be more profitable.
We'll pull from our combined knowledge of over 20 years and interview thought leaders that will inspire you and give you the motivation you need to kick your business into high gear. Buckle up. It's Friday.
I guess we can just kind of go into the conversation, right? I mean,
It's fine with me. Skip the intro.
that's right.
Hey, maybe this is on the show right now.
Maybe this is the intro. This is the intro for this episode. And the reason why it's this intro for this episode is because, Ben, it's your birthday.
It's my birthday.
Dude, happy birthday.
Thanks.
What an amazing you've made it.
I'm 35. I'm halfway to my life expectancy, so it's something to celebrate. I made it halfway.
Whatever, dude. We are going to converge with robots over the next 20 to 30 years. The singularity is going to happen, and then you're just going to live forever, dude.
Okay, cool. Sounds good.
All right. So on my birthday, which was convenient that we recorded on my birthday, we just kind of talked about my life and my journey of how I got to where I am and whatnot. And, I got some love from some people out there. They sent me some messages and said that that episode was really encouraging to them and whatnot. And so I'm glad that I was able to share that story and encourage some people. And so I felt like, well, hey, we're recording today on your birthday. So why don't we hear your story and learn a little bit about your journey, about how you got to where you are. And so, so I think we should go back. We should go back to when you were first born.
Wow. Going way back.
Way back. But before we go back, I want to do a little conversation card here. I'm going to mix these suckers up. Better conversations, one card at a time, as I like to say. We're going to draw a random one. And then we are going to... Here we go.
All right, I'm ready.
Okay. Is a hot dog a sandwich?
Yes.
Why or why not?
It has bread. It's meat in between bread.
Does that constitute a sandwich?
Just a weird shape.
It has.
What's different between a hot dog and any other sandwich? It's just a weird shape, right?
Yeah, that is an interesting thought because I wouldn't say that a hot dog is a sandwich. I would say that it's a. I think it's like its own thing. It's like
doesn't fall in any predefined category.
Exactly.
Don't put hot dogs in a box.
Don't put it in a bun.
Think outside the bun.
When I did that solo episode, which was so lonely without you, I'd never want to do a solo episode again. But I'm glad that I'm here to hold down the fort, and we can mutually hold down the fort for each other.
We got it.
The question we did with Andy Matheson, he is the CMO for Glovebox. If you haven't listened to that episode, go back and check it out. He talks about his journey from essentially selling insurance to starting an app company, which is, very interesting. But his question was, is cereal soup why or why not?
Oh, okay. That's a good question. That one has got me a little more stumped than the hot dog one.
Yeah, you were hot off the hot dog there to say, yes, it was a sandwich.
Yeah. You can have cold soups. I mean,
yeah.
Sure. It's a breakfast soup. And actually I like that because I've always thought, and this is really not a smart idea, but I've always thought it would be fun because I'm not a huge fan, or I didn't used to be a huge fan of hot breakfast. I actually just loved eating plain Cheerios, not even Honey Nut Cheerios. I loved just Cheerios and milk. I was it's so good. Dude. I know. You know me.
You eat for function.
I know. You know me. It's like, oh, the same food every day. It fuels my body. I will eat it. Yeah. It's same thing every time. Well, Uh-oh.
What was that?
That might have been the train.
I think I heard it.
Oh. There it is.
Okay.
Your dance for the train gets better every time, I gotta say.
I become a better dancer because of the show.
You practice, I can tell.
Well, thank you.
So yeah, no, my idea was like, well, I mean, I don't want to like stop and get get hot breakfast. This is probably when I was a teenager. I thought this was a good idea. Why don't they make cereal bars? You could go to like a bar and they just have like all different flavors of cereal and milk.
Did you invent the cereal bar before the cereal bar was invented?
I've heard that there are those. That is a such thing now, isn't there? Or not?
Yeah, dude.
I've never been to one, but I always thought that would be awesome.
Now get this, there's cereal bars, but then there's also a breakfast bar that's made of cereal.
It's called a cereal bar.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like,
I know about that one. Yeah.
Okay, good. You've had a cereal bar.
Yeah. It's even more efficient than regular cereal.
Yeah, there's this place, I think it's out here in Denver where it's like a cereal bar. You can get like Fruity Loops, Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
Yep. Can you get different like flavors of milk and stuff? Like there's chocolate milk, regular
strawberry,
milk, soy milk, almond milk.
Root beer milk.
Really?
Have you never had root beer milk?
What?
See,
No.
I'm a kid of the 90s, so like back then they didn't care about our health. They're like, here's saturated fat. Here's a root beer milk for school. Like we had root beer milk at school. How ridiculous is that?
I don't even understand that.
It's great. Milk with the flavor of root beer.
Hey, I mean, there's like cereal that's literally like miniature cupcakes, basically. So, I mean, I guess.
Yeah, Cookie Crisp.
Whatever.
I mean, cereal's not good for you.
No,
but it is very delicious.
If you want to call that cereal. But yeah, okay. Back to the question.
Oh yeah,
is cereal soup? I mean, yeah, it's. I guess it is.
Yeah, it's breakfast soup. I think you nailed it with the breakfast soup thing. There's breakfast soup, lunch soup, and dinner soup.
The definition of cereal is cold breakfast soup.
That's right.
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. I love it. I think that's fantastic.
That one broke my brain more than the hot dog one for sure.
Well, we're all about breaking brains here on the Friday Habit.
All right.
So I'm glad that we could break your brain. So let's go back. Let's go back to when little Ben was gallivanting through the forests of Cincinnati.
I was born near Columbus, Ohio.
Ah, Ohio.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I was born in Ohio. Grew up. Well, we actually moved a lot before I was the age of 10. We moved to Alabama at one point, North Carolina. Kind of moved all over the place for a while. But
now, was your dad a door-to-door salesman, or was he in the military?
He actually was a welding engineer. So he worked on a lot of stuff like he helped like improve quality control and like all these different processes basically for creating parts of like nuclear submarines and stuff like that. So he would,
So very specialized skill. And so it was like wherever they were paying the most money, that's where we're going.
Or, I mean, it was like he would get moved around between different locations of the company. Like his company had different locations, so he would need to travel to one location for a while. So he would travel back and forth. And then once he ended up traveling a lot, then we would just move there because at that point he's spending more time there than at home. So we might as well move there, you know? So we did that a few times.
And so because of that, because you were traveling so much, was it hard to make friends, or was it difficult like being pulled from school or anything like that?
No, I mean, I guess, well, I was homeschooled, so I never had to be pulled out of school really.
You're like, my school traveled with me everywhere I went.
I could never be pulled out of school. So no, I love being homeschooled actually, but no, I didn't really. I don't feel like I had trouble making friends. I actually don't remember, like, honestly, a ton about like friends before like the age of like 8. So maybe I didn't have any friends.
You're like, wow, when I really look back at it.
No, it wasn't hard to make friends. I just didn't, you know?
I just didn't have any friends. So it wasn't hard to not have friends.
That's not really true. I did. It was usually like my friends would be, you know, kids at church or in our homeschool group, you know, we would do stuff with them. So no, I had a great, you know, I really enjoyed my childhood, actually. I felt like I got to spend a lot of time outdoors. I remember, you know, I would wake up early in the morning. My dad would usually leave for work at maybe 6 a.m. I'd wake up early. I'd go outside and like work on building some fort out in the woods or something that I was, you know, working on, or go play in the barn. We had like this old barn. We didn't have a farm, but the place that we lived in Ohio, when I was probably the age of like 7 to like 9 years old, I remember that place the most in Ohio. And we had a barn with like some wild feral cats that lived in the barn pretty much that kind of ended up there. And I just remember just getting up early in the morning, going and playing outside and doing whatever I wanted in the morning for a few hours before I had to start doing school at home. So I just loved like being outside. And my younger sister, she's 3 years younger than me. We'd both go out and just play outside before my mom woke up and just kind of enjoy nature and kind of be creative and do whatever we wanted, which was really fun.
There's something beautiful about that as far as I feel like in society today, we're so busy. You know, it's kind of like you wake up and then it's like go time. Like we got to brush our teeth, eat our, breakfast soup and get out the door to go do something,
Yep.
And so I think there's something beautiful about like wake up when the sun comes up and then I'm going to go play outside until mom calls us in for our breakfast bar.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I enjoy that. And then I guess, one of the things that started my love for what I do now and like design and stuff happened then probably when I was about 9 years old. My dad, he was working, his welding engineering job, and he brought home a laptop. It was the first time I'd ever seen a laptop, and it was like this big, bulky black laptop that was like a giant brick, black and white.
Was it a Toshiba satellite or something? Or
I don't even know what it was. I don't remember, to be honest. But
an IBM.
Actually, it probably was an IBM. Actually, that you say that. So he brought that home and kind of blew my mind. Like I'd never really used a computer before that. My grandma had like a really old Mac, at her place with a few games on it, but I'd never gotten to like actually like use a computer other than playing like a game or two. So my dad actually brought home a book. I think it might've been HTML for Dummies that he had maybe gotten from the library or something like that. Or maybe it was a different brand, but he broke open the book and he was like, "Hey, like I want to learn some HTML, this World Wide Web thing. And, do you want to learn it with me?" I was like, "Sure." So I built my first website when I was like 9 years old. I don't know if we actually made it live on the web or if we just had the HTML files on the computer. Like I thought it was live. I was like, I made a website. I don't know if anybody ever looked at it.
There was a waving American flag GIF, and it was just...
I just remember like figuring, I can use these like hex codes to create colors. Like this is amazing. And as a kid, I was just kind of like, I don't know why. I just thought that things that were complicated or technical were cool. It's probably because my dad was an engineer and I saw his technical drawings and I wanted to be like him, and I'd be like, oh man, this is cool to be technical or to learn code. And I just thought it was cool because nobody made fun of me for it. So I didn't know it wasn't cool. I was like, this is awesome. Like,
all your non-friends didn't make fun of you.
Exactly. No, but it's funny. Like it was one of those things where I thought it was cool to make things that looked like official, like businesses. So I enjoyed like on that laptop, I made that first website. And, anytime I did schoolwork, I would, instead of doing the assignment the way I was supposed to do it, I would, instead of like writing an APA format or something, I would instead design like a newsletter in Microsoft Publisher, and I would, make it look like a cool flyer instead of, using word art or something, instead of writing it up in this format that I thought was super boring. I would just like get creative with it, which, thankfully my mom was I think it was helpful that she was like flexible in that stuff. It's like, well, here's the point of it. You can get creative and do these things, because it motivated me to do the work. And focus on what was important.
Were you able to like play a lot of video games or watch movies and TV and stuff like that when you were young?
I would say definitely I was, I think my parents, especially my mom, has the philosophy of like protecting me from, specific things that she thought weren't good for my mind as a child and stuff like that. The world, exactly. So I was raised as a Christian, pretty conservative family, I'd say. Even more conservative than some of the other homeschool families I knew. But not the most conservative. There was even more extreme than my family too. So
you guys had a computer, so
we did.
That was a sin,
exactly. So, but I wasn't allowed to watch Star Wars as a kid, or like lots of things that are pretty common pop cultures things I just didn't really know about or have any reference for. So I got really good at kind of understanding when people are making pop culture references and kind of laughing along with it, but not really knowing what they're talking
You're like,
about.
I'm laughing, but I don't know why. But I know that if I laugh, I'll fit in, so I better laugh.
Yeah, that would happen sometimes. And then like, before Google, there's no way for me to find out. So I might ask somebody like, oh, what? Or, and eventually, I'll just be okay with it. Be like, I don't know what you're talking about,
Yeah.
But sometimes, when you first meet somebody, you don't want to let them know you're weird yet. So you just kind of laugh along.
So do you think that because your mom, and because your family maybe was a little bit more strict, that you weren't so exposed to so much video games or TV or movies or things like that, that it created more space in your life to then have the ability to be interested in other things or create your own entertainment? I feel like my kids, I try to create space for them to be bored, because I feel like if they're always just doing and going and then always on a device or something like that, that there's no room for them to actually like use their imaginations or, be creative, because they're just being force fed stuff constantly. And I see that with my oldest son. He's 13, and it's like his friends are constantly on a phone. Like they're walking together to school or whatever, and they're on a phone, and I'm like, hey, like, I don't want you on your device 24/7. And because of that, like, I think it gives them more space to like have conversations and, use their imagination.
Yeah. I do think about that a lot. And I do think for me specifically, it did help me with that, because I wasn't allowed to play a lot of video games. I never had like a video game console or anything. So my fun was like going on the computer and like looking around at every Microsoft program that was on there. Oh, what's Microsoft Word? What's Publisher? What's this? Oh, I'll go to the library and learn more about how to use this. And it was fun for me to create stuff with that. And my friend Joel, who lived down the street when we were kids, he was also homeschooled, and he would literally make like video game levels in Microsoft Paint. Like he would like draw out like pixel art, and then select the pixel art and then move it through the map that he had drawn inside Microsoft Paint. But I would create like pixel art too, and like, pixel by pixel, like draw like a cool thing, in Microsoft Paint. So I definitely think the boredom contributed to that for me. I mean, I did so much creative stuff when I was a kid. I recorded multiple albums of music that, were pretty terrible, but it was fun, like experimenting with it. And I made tons of videos, I made like a video series before YouTube was a thing, and I would email the videos to people at like, postage stamp size or whatever. And created websites for like, my local soccer team and my Boy Scout troop. I mean, I loved creating stuff like that. I think part of it's personality, and I see it in my kids too. Like I want them to be creative, but I also don't want to push them. Like not everyone is that way where they just have to make stuff, and I don't think it's necessarily bad if you're not. But I see it in my kids too, wanting to create stuff. Some of it's virtual and some of it's real. Like sometimes they're like, oh, I want to create this video game, or like in Minecraft even, like I see my daughter using like Minecraft to be super creative. I'm like really impressed with the stuff she comes up with, just by creating this amazing building. And that's actually a valuable skill too, as we move forward into the future. I don't want them to not have those technological skills and be like almost handicapped in a way for the future if that's where the world's going. But I also really want them to have boredom too, because I think it's that like dopamine hit or whatever, where it's like too easy to feel good about yourself in a video game, and that reward happens so easily that it makes you, it's harder to work hard for a reward in real life and get that, you know what I mean? So that's the thing I'm only worried about, is like if something is so rewarding so easily, then it might attract you more than working hard on something in real life that requires a little bit more investment.
Yeah. I think I agree with you 100%. I think and I think this is why you and I connect too, is because I grew up in a very strict home as well. And I just had a lot of time on my hands, and we weren't allowed to watch TV if my dad wasn't home, and he was very strict about the stuff we did watch. And so I just spent most of my days outside, and so, and similarly, right, I created my own radio show with a friend, and we would just make tapes and tapes of recordings of us like interviewing each other and just jacking around and having fun. So I think boredom is good. So you're a little kid, you get exposed to a computer, an IBM. I had a Radio Shack Tandy as one of my first computers at my house, and had to learn DOS to play like Oregon Trail and stuff like that, which were some games. And you guys moved around a lot, traveled from place to place, but you were homeschooled, self-sufficient, so you kind of just made fun wherever you guys went. And how long did that go on? I mean, until
Well, so, until I was 9, really, we moved a lot. And then after that, we moved from Ohio actually to Virginia, to Lynchburg, where I live now. That was also for my dad's job. But, I think at that point, I mean, I've lived here, ever since then. So
25 years or 20 years?
yeah, basically, yeah. Yeah, this is my home now, basically. Yeah, so I guess it's been 25, 26 years now. That's crazy. But yeah, this is basically what I consider my home for sure now. And I love Virginia. I remember when we moved here, I made friends faster than anywhere else. As far as I remember thinking how friendly everybody was. It's a little bit of a stereotype, but moving from the north to the south. But I do think, overall, I think that's true in my experience, and that made a lot of friends really quickly. And from there, I got really involved in some local groups here. And one of the biggest factors in my life as a kid, I think, for shaping things, one was being homeschooled for sure. And I'm really grateful that I was. I feel like I was able to do a lot of things, kind of have a lot of free time to explore and get good at things on my own that I was really interested in, so I really like that. I think if I had been in school, I think I would have been very distracted by other people, because I'm kind of a little bit of a type of person that wants just to make everybody else happy. So I'll flex and do what everybody else is doing, or at least at my worst, I will, so I'm very can be influenced by others in some ways, especially as a kid. So I think I would have been very distracted if I was in more of a class setting. So for me, I think it was good. But anyway, yeah, so I as a teenager, being in Boy Scouts was the other really influential part of my life. I just loved that, like being out in the woods, going on hikes, going on adventures. I have lifelong friends that I'm still really close with, like from that Boy Scout troop I was in, from the age of 11 through 18.
You were that kid.
I was all the way through, man.
All the way through.
I loved it. I mean, it was, I learned so many leadership skills through that.
Sold a lot of popcorn.
Yeah, I did sell. Did I tell you about that?
No, you didn't, but I can only imagine.
Dude, I was like the top salesman in the district of popcorn. I really was. I sold so much popcorn. I remember I got this really sweet boom box with like a CD player on it. And I got like a lot of money towards summer camp. I think my whole summer camp was paid for.
The popcorn
I sold
king of Virginia.
Dude. I'd sold so much popcorn. And then when I realized like, I saw this popcorn, it's like, and then we have to go deliver it. I was like, that was half the work.
Yeah.
Oh. But it's funny looking back now. I haven't actually thought about this, but the fact that I was the top sales, and that's kind of what I do now. Some, is I'm in the business development side of my company, is doing sales in a way.
Yeah.
So
websites instead of popcorn.
Yeah, exactly. I do remember I always sold more popcorn on the days when it was raining. So I would go out even if it rained, because I was like, I'll sell way more when it's raining than when it's not raining. I would come up to the door. My cap would be like dripping, like water off the front of it. And
How
I'm
can
like,
you say no
popcorn.
to this little kid?
It's like there's a kid, it's selling popcorn in the rain. Like, are you not going to buy?
The master salesman. Love
really
it.
Funny. And my dad would like take me to like the nice neighborhoods, not where we lived, but where the houses were close together, like nice suburban like neighborhood with the big houses, and we'd go to those neighborhoods to sell popcorn. Just like go door to door. It's so funny looking back. But that was a really formative experience for me, so many adventures, just summer camp and stuff. So I love that. And I think that was a big influence on my life when it comes to leadership and stuff like that.
That's awesome. So Boy Scouts was a big part of your life, homeschooling, and I'm assuming you had like a homeschool group or something like that, like Friday school. I know when I was a kid, we had Friday school.
Yep.
And then you kind of just continued on with being creative and designing stuff in Microsoft Paint and just doing your thing. What what were things like as far as your home life? Were you pretty close with your parents? Were you as a family unit? I'm assuming homeschooling, you probably do a lot of stuff together.
Yeah, we did. I think we were close. I think we were really close as a family. My dad, his dad left when he was really young, and he had 5 brothers. So I think he kind of was reacting to how his childhood, it was really hard for his mom and his family to not have a dad, that he kind of, decided I'm not going to be like that. So he was a great dad for, me and my sister. He coached a lot of my different teams. He would coach my soccer team. He coached my baseball team. He was one of the scoutmasters in the Boy Scout troop. So, he did so much to like give me a good start. Like I said, taught me HTML. So I think he did a lot to kind of get me started on that stuff. And my mom, obviously she sacrificed years of her life to homeschool me and my sister. And yeah, as far as being close with them, I think, my dad, I was close with him, but he never talked about like emotions. I don't know if your dad did or not, but it was kind of
absolutely not.
You're like laughing. Nope. That's the vibe I got from when we talked about that before. But yeah, he didn't talk about emotions. He would talk about like what we should do next, or what the right action to take is, or what's right and what's wrong. But he would never say how he felt about something, Like if something made him feel disappointed or sad or angry, he would never talk about emotions. So it's kind of interesting.
Do you think that's important?
I think it is. I do that with my kids, and I think it is important because, I think it's important to give your kids language to talk about like how they feel about stuff, you know, and otherwise it's kind of like a mysterious thing. And maybe my dad, obviously my dad never had that from his dad, and he wasn't even around.
Right.
So, he may not have 100% understood it, but he was a very like kind, steady person, I never remember him ever like getting angry and yelling or anything, honestly.
You never got spanked or anything like that?
I got spanked, but he never was like
right,
losing
flew off
his,
the
his
handle.
cool.
And
You know what I mean?
yeah.
He never lost his cool, basically.
Yeah.
So I think that's also why anytime I was ever angry as a teenager, I was like super awkward angry. Like I didn't know how to be angry, just like completely flip out if I got angry. And so I basically kind of repressed that. I never wanted to be angry,
right?
because I would lose control, and I felt like I was gonna make a fool out of myself, So.
Yeah. And then not knowing how to express your emotions or like articulate your feelings. It's like, I think a lot of times, anger, all those things stem from fear. And, if we can't articulate those things, it comes out in unhealthy ways. And so I agree with you. I think it's important that our children, it's like making the next generation better. It's like, well, I maybe didn't learn how to express myself or share my feelings because my dad didn't know how to share his feelings and express himself, and so on and so forth. But going forward, it's like, what are you feeling? Like, why are you feeling that way? And then, kind of trying to understand the emotions that we're feeling based off of the feelings
exactly.
that we're experiencing. So, I think that's really good. So you were just doing the family thing.
Yep.
And as far as like a pivoting moment of your life, you're homeschooling, you're Boy Scout, all the way up to your 18. What is that transition kind of from boyhood to manhood?
That's a good question. I don't know. I think honestly, where my focus was, so I met my future wife when I was 14. She was 13. This will be a fun little part of the story. So I met her. Yeah. Well, let me. I'm like, all right. Let me set the stage for this.
Let's set this up properly.
This is gonna get weird. This
is where we're gonna cut the episode, and then it's gonna be like, you're gonna have to join us next week for part 2, because this is where it gets weird.
That's perfect.
All right, we're gonna pause this conversation here. Go to thefridayhabit.com. There you can find show notes for this episode. There you can also find links to our websites and ways to get in touch. At the bottom of the page, you can download our guide to the Friday Habit System that will show you how to set aside one full day each week dedicated to working on your business instead of in your business. If you're not already, make sure you subscribe. If you enjoyed this episode and want to hear next week's episode, subscribe so you get notified. Also, leave us a review in Apple Podcast app or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And if you want to potentially be on one of our episodes with a question you ask us, go ahead and record a quick message in your phone, voice memo, and email it to hello@thefridayhabit.com. Until next time, live every day like it's Friday.